So I've got my cylinder freshly honed just to break the glaze. So I didn't bother videoing the honing. There's lots of good videos online about honing. Basically what you want to do is I have the three fingered hone that goes in and is spring loaded and goes out. Oil it up really good, the stones, oil up the inside of the cylinder, and then start going on a variable speed drill. Don't do it on a constant speed drill. Use it and just go nice and slow. Go as slow as you can. It's a bit of a trick because you got to kind of pull the trigger as well as move it. Don't stop. You keep moving. You keep going up and down. You make about 4 or 5, 6 passes. Pull it out and stop. And well, what you do is you stop and then you squeeze it so you don't scrape it. You pull it out. And then clean off the stones because there's going to be some stone material. There's going to be a little tiny bit of glaze on it. Clean out the inside of the cylinder and then re-oil everything and repeat it. You do that just a few times, clean it up and have a look. And what you should see, and it's kind of hard, get yourself a nice bright flashlight, but what you should see on the side of the piston walls are scratches or scrapes that go this way and other ones that kind of go that way. Now, not at an exact X like that, but kind of more like that. They'll end up being like that because you're going in and out. And that's cross-hatching, and that's what you want. That's where, with the new rings that I got a new piston, new rings, the oil is going to kind of just sit in those cross-hatches and provide proper lubrication as the rings bed in, as they wear. They'll disappear as the bike gets used more and more. But initially, as the rings are wearing in, that's what you want, just to break that off. Alright, so having said that, so now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to just check the gaps on both my new piston as well as my rings. So I've got here a nice forged piston. This is a standard piston for the 500, and I got this from Hitchcock's. It's a forged unit, quite a bit different from the old original one. You can see how it's made. It's got the split here in the front of the piston, and also the under the ring groove or oil ring is these grooves that go and catch the oil and push the oil down. But I didn't like this piston. I just don't like it that the crown of the piston is really just supported by this much metal on this side and this much metal on that side. So I didn't really like that very much. On one of the forums I'm on, there's some evidence that this bottom oil ring can seize up in there. This one wasn't. This was nice and free, and obviously I haven't cleaned it yet. But nonetheless, if it did seize up, then you could cock this and end up snapping off the crown and just basically this piston could fail. So what I did was I went out and I got a brand new piston, but this time I got a forged one. And still the same standard piston. I didn't go up with the compression. I'm not interested in raising the compression. This actually should raise it a bit anyway. This piston's supposed to give me 6.5 to 1, which is what the standard was supposed to be, but it was really probably a little closer to 6.2 or 6.3. So anyway, so what I want to do now is I want to put the piston. You can see I got the cylinder upside down here in my oil pan. I'm going to put the piston in, and I want to just check the clearance around the skirt. So the clearance should be 0.005 inches or 0.127 millimeters. So I'm going to put it in. The wrist pin goes in this way, or gudgeon pin, depending on what you prefer, goes in this way, which lines up with in between the push rod tunnels here. So you just drop it in, and it should go in freely. I've got the inside lightly oiled, so nothing's going to get really damaged or anything. And then I just take my feeler gauge here, my 0.005, and what I do is I reach in, and I kind of pull the piston over to one side so that I make a gap in this area. Check the gap. So it goes in fine. It's a little tight, but it goes in. That's okay, as long as the gap's there. Then I rotate it so that I can check across from it 180 degrees. I do the same thing. I put my fingers there and I just pull the piston over, and same thing. I can feel it goes in a little snug, but it's okay. Then I rotate it 90 degrees, and I just kind of line myself back up, pull it this way, and feeler gauge goes in nice and easy here, so there's a little bit more gap in this direction. And then same thing here, try the other side, pull the piston over, same thing. So it's interesting, there's more gap on the sides of the cylinder that are in the direction of the wrist pin than there is on the inlet and outlet of the side of the cylinder. But there's still enough gap there that it's not going to bind up, which is what you want. Alright, so now, having done that, I'll take that guy out, and I'm going to turn the cylinder over. And now I want to check the end gap on the rings. Okay, so I've got my new piston that I'm going to install. I got this from Hitchcock's. It's a forged piston replacement. It's a standard. This is a standard, and same compression. I think actually a little bit more. This is 6.5 to 1 or so, maybe a little more than 6.4, 6.5 to 1. But over the stock. So this is the new one. The rings are quite a bit different than the old one. They're much thinner, and this is the number for this one, 90204, and they come with a piston ring set, which if I recall is 90016A. But if you go on their website and look up this piston, at the bottom of the description, the details, is the link to the piston ring set for this particular piston. So what I have to do now is set the end gap. So this came with the piston. So just a quick note about this. So they talk about the orientation of the top, second, and the oil ring. Slight variations between pistons, but I went and had a look at these rings already. So the top ring on this particular set does not have any bevel, but some of them do, and the bevel's on the inside. Sorry about that. Some of them are on the inside bevel for the top ring. This set doesn't have a bevel on the inside of the rings, just squared off outside and inside. The second ring shows a bevel, and the bevel faces down, so this is the direction into the engine, and this is up towards the head. This one does have that bevel, so what I've done is I've already marked that piston with a white paint marker. Just put a couple of dots, because none of them have any numbers or any dimples on them, which typically indicate upward towards the head on a piston ring set. So I marked this one. And this oil ring set, or the oil ring comes in this set, has a spring inside, the spring assisted ring. They show the two different types of the oil rings, and those ones have the bevels kind of facing down like this, but actually I guess the scraper part is facing down, but the bevel is facing up towards the head. So likewise I just marked the top of the oil ring with that. And then on the bottom you can see they've got the gaps for the top ring, middle ring, bottom ring. So the top ring is supposed to be 0.25 to 0.4 millimeters, or 0.010 inch to 0.016 inch. The middle ring with the chamfer facing down is 0.3 to 0.45 millimeters, or 0.012 inch to 0.018. And the bottom ring with the chamfer facing up is 0.2 to 0.4 millimeters, or 0.008 to 0.016. So I'm just going to start with the top ring. So I've gone around the top here. I put a little bit of oil in top just to kind of lubricate it up a bit. You got to be very careful. These are extremely brittle. So I'm just going to put it in there and just kind of gently close it up. I'm a little bit paranoid about breaking these things. So kind of get it even. So what I typically do is I'll push it down to I'll take the piston and use that to kind of evenly push the ring down so I get a good end gap. And I'll push it down to where the second second groove is on the ring to line up with the top of the spigot here, and that's just pushed down far enough to get it. And then I can just check around, because I know the piston is a nice little indicator, and I can see when it's flush all the way around, and I know I pretty well. There we go. I just check the groove all the way around, and when it's flush with the spigot, take it out, and there is my ring in there. And my gap is over here. So I start with the smallest one here, which is the where am I? Nope. Start with the smallest one on this end, which is my 0.025 millimeter or 0.010 inch feeler gauge. Let me just get some light on this guy here. Just kind of show you where I'm at with this. So I want to be able to see that. So that one goes in there pretty easily. Yep. So I'm probably going to be okay, but I am curious to see what kind of a gap I have. So I'm going to go up to the next one, which is 0.28 or 0.011 inch, and give that one a try and see how that goes. That one goes in, and it's got a little bit of drag. Okay, so I would think that's probably it. I'll try the 0.3 millimeter or 0.012 inch one. See what that gives me. And it goes in, but it's extremely tight. So it actually, yeah, you kind of have to force it in. So that's it. So this one's fine. It's 0.011 inch. So now just to get this guy out, I'm just going to be very careful and kind of pull it up. What I try to do. Just kind of rotate it like that and let it come out and spring open. Yeah, these things are extremely fragile. I'm always super paranoid when I'm dealing with these things. Never try to force them open, they'll break for sure. Okay, let's try the ring number 2. So you can see this one's got the chamfer on this side. You can't see it, but the chamfer's on this side, and that's going to face downward. So I put my 2 little white dots up on top of the ring, so it helps me when I'm putting them in the piston oriented. There we go. Now I'll push this guy down. Same deal. All the way around, and that's pretty even. Okay. Now this one is supposed to be 0.3 to 0.45 millimeters, so we'll start at 0.3 and see if we're there. I'll take my glasses off. Easier to see when you get those off. Oh, that doesn't even want to go in. No. So this one I'm going to end up having to just take a little bit off of that just to get that in. So the 0.3 millimeter or 0.012 inch, I can see the gap. It doesn't need a lot taken off, but I'm going to end up having to take a little bit off. So that's fine. Take that guy out. So the top ring's okay. The middle ring needs just a wee bit off. And the same thing with this one now. Now this one's got the chamfer on the top outside edge, upper outside edge here. This is the oil ring. Same thing now, that one faces up, that chamfer faces up, so I put my 2 little white dots on the top of this ring. Alright, squeeze that down a little bit. Now the oil ring is supposed to be 0.2 to 0.4 millimeters, or 0.008 to 0.016. So let's go with somewhere. I'm going to say, well, we'll just start here with the 0.3 millimeter one, and that's kind of in the middle of the range, a little closer to the bottom end. See what we got. So that one doesn't go, but it's starting to go. I can feel it starting to go in. So we'll go down. We'll go down one. So this will be is that down one or is that down two? That's down. That's down two. That's interesting. Where's my? Anyway, here's my 0.010 inch, or 0.25 millimeter. That one also doesn't want to go in. Oh, there we go. We may end up having to go down to the 0.08. Let's go right down to the 0.08, which is the minimum, and see if that 0.203 or 0.2 and 0.08 inch. See if that goes in. Yep. So that's at the minimum. So I don't think I'm gonna. I don't know. I might take just a wee bit off. I don't know. It's it goes in easily. A little bit of a drag. So I might take a tiny bit off. But you get the idea. That's what you do. Just gap them first before you go and put them on the ring, or put them on the piston rather, and then you'll be a lot better off when you go to install the piston. Okay, so that's it.